Go for it.
Well, Congressman, if we listen to the founding fathers, we'd be quite a ways ahead. It's interesting today in the political rhetoric you hear, some people claim the founding fathers, but they don't claim the real founding fathers, the ones who actually had the foresight to make America a strong economic country by making sure that the government played an important role in making sure our economy was working by promoting transportation, patents, currency protection, and things like that. But I would say that, you know, as we work here today and as we think about all of the things that our nation needs, none are more important than putting Americans back to work, I think. And the American Jobs Act is a plan set forth by the President, and he's set this forth at a time when he's reaching his hand out, he's extending his hand, he's trying to get the Republican majority in the House to work with him, but apparently they just won't do so because they have ideological and political considerations. One of those ideological things is that they just don't think the government is any good. They don't think the government can do any good. They don't think the government can help. And so we see proposals and amendments to simply eliminate the federal role out of transportation. And, of course, we've seen eliminate the federal role out of environmental protection. And we've seen a whole host of things like this. You would think that the reason we have high unemployment is because of job-killing regulations. They love this refrain. I'm sure Frank Luntz is very proud. He's a pollster who comes up with clever phrasing that they use a lot. But it's not job-killing regulations. Any small business person will tell you the key to their success is customers. The key to customers is people who have jobs, who have some money to spend. You got no customers, and your customers are broke, then they're not going to buy your cakes, your pies. Then those folks are not going to be able to pay the taxes they need to keep our valued public employees working, teachers, firefighters, police officers, public health nurses, people who make the water and the meat safe to eat. And you know, what we argue for, they like to throw around terms like socialism, but what we argue for is a mixed economy, a balance between the private sector and government, which enhances the performance of both, all in service to the American people. So today, I am in favor of us getting a strong, long-term, 6-year transportation bill. I am absolutely in favor of helping our students who are fearing that education is getting out of their economic reach. Absolutely, we have to be there to reform currency, to level the playing field with China. We should buy American. What's wrong with buying American? I think buying American's good. I rather prefer buying American. In fact, whenever I get a product and it says Made in America, I get a warm fuzzy all over.
Well, wouldn't you love to go into Kmart or Target and see on the shelves, Made in America? Made in America. Made in America. That's why the currency reform is so important. If it was made in America, maybe we could make it in America. Well, Americans would make it. Yeah. If we made it in America. That's right. We'd have those middle-class jobs. You know it. That's where it is. Let me just do something here. This is part of the Mr. Ellison, thank you very much. I know you've got a plane. You've got to get back to Minneapolis. Thank you so very much for joining us. This is part of the Democratic agenda. This is something we've been working on now for well over 2 years. And we call it Make It in America. This is rebuilding the American middle class. This is about the American middle class coming back. Over the last 20 years, we've seen a decline in American manufacturing. In the early 90s, we were a little more than 19 million, almost 20 million Americans were in the manufacturing sector. Those were middle-class jobs. You can go to work, earn a living, live a middle-class life, buy your bass boat, you know, take the kids on a vacation. Today, we're just over 11 million middle-class manufacturing jobs in America. So looking at this dismal situation a couple of years ago, shortly after I arrived here, we began looking at What do you do about this? Why did this happen? Why is it that the American manufacturing sector declined? We did our studies. We did the economic analysis. But mostly we looked at public policy. We looked at the laws of this land. We looked at what was going on in the public policy sector. And what we found was the policies of this nation discouraged manufacturing and, in fact, rewarded American corporations that would offshore jobs. Literally, actually, giving American corporations a reduction in their taxes for every job they offshored. Total about $16 billion a year. I know, you don't believe that. How could there be such a policy? That was my question. What? You mean to tell me that the tax policy of the United States gives a tax break to American corporations when they ship a job offshore? Can't be. In fact, it was. And so, in the last year, the last months of the Democrats' control of this House, in 2010, we undertook to change that. We put a bill on this floor that would eliminate $12 billion of that $16 billion tax break that American corporations had for offshoring jobs. It passed without one Republican vote. Not one member of the Republican Party voted to end a tax break for American companies that offshored jobs. The Senate took it up. It passed. President Obama signed that legislation. Public policy matters. Public policy matters a great deal. We've talked here today about the Buy American provisions. Been in law for 30, 40 years. Basically say, if it's our taxpayer dollars, it ought to be used to buy American equipment. Over the years, probably beginning in the 80s and carrying on, those provisions began to gain loopholes, one after another, so that at the end of 2010, the loophole was 12-lane freeway that you could drive any project through and buy whatever you wanted to buy from wherever it came from. So much so that in San Francisco, the Oakland Bay Bridge between Oakland and San Francisco had to be rebuilt because of earthquake safety issues. Some of it fell down in the Loma Prieta earthquake. The largest construction project, public works project ever in California. The main central steel column for a uniquely designed bridge, $1 billion or more. Chinese steel, Chinese welders, 6,000 jobs in China to save 10%. Turns out the steel was faulty, the welds were faulty, the jobs were still in China, and the inspectors were Chinese. If we had a Buy American provision that meant anything at all, we would have had 6,000 jobs in America. The inspectors would have been American, and there would be American jobs. So my legislation says this. H.R. House Resolution 613 says that if it is your tax money, it's going to be spent on American-made equipment, American-made steel, and the jobs will be in America. Where's that bill? Hasn't even been taken up for a hearing in the Transportation Committee. We're nibbling around the edges here. Every bill that comes to this floor that's relevant to this issue, we try to